Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the Crypto Lark. I'm honored to have with me today Rob Viglione. He is the team lead of Zencash. Rob, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Lark. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate the having me on.
Now, I wanted to ask you, for anyone who hasn't heard about Zencash yet, give us the elevator pitch. What are you guys doing?
Totally. We are a super secure, privacy-oriented blockchain platform. So we started off with just a really secure cryptocurrency called Zencash, but we're actually building out a whole secure platform on top of that to do a whole bunch of other applications that for which security is really important. Things like secure messaging, document publishing, and so forth, to name just a few.
Really interesting. And I guess,
Yeah.
what's the Zencash is a great name, by the way. What's the name? Where's the philosophy behind Zencash come from?
Totally. It just shows, what we're all about. We want to be the good guys in the crowd here. We think that this industry has, obviously a wide range of people participating in it. Some absolutely horrible, some really good, and a whole bunch in between. We hope to be on the really good side. And Zen just shows our philosophy of wanting to give back to society and wanting to be good to our community and just treating people with respect.
Very cool. I know the Dalai Lama is not into, having worldly possessions and all that stuff, but do you think he'd be a fan?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the specific use cases here. Zenchat. What is it? What is it used for?
Yeah, so Sunchat is our first messaging protocol. And in fact, so you can send secure messages using ZK snarks to have complete security on your messaging, which we thought in a world where we're learning every day that systems are being compromised or undermined and people's privacy is being just stepped on. We think that privacy is a human right. So one of the first things that we did after building the currency was to build this thing called Sunchat, which is just a really simple messaging protocol so people can communicate with each other freely and never have to worry about that communication. What I'll say is because it runs on snarks, it's slow. So it's not designed to be like, you're not going to replace WhatsApp with Sunchat. It's just not there yet. This is really for people who need high privacy or security. Maybe they're in a part of the world that they're being repressed for being a Bitcoiner. And there are places in the world like that, and it sucks to see people being repressed. So Sunchat it's a secure messaging protocol. We do hope to upgrade that over time. So number one, we need to upgrade the usability of it in terms of the product interface design. But then we need to upgrade the core technology behind it. And, under the realization that maybe not every message needs to go over snarks, maybe it's okay to have a block cipher, something that can just be doing rapid communication. So I love this project just because it's one thing that we do that is extremely consistent with our longer term vision. It's just providing these kind of basic rights for people to communicate with each other.
Very cool. I like the idea. Yeah. I suppose one thing that comes to my mind too is whistleblowers. They might like to use something like this to communicate with a journalist, for example. Like obviously, there's a lot of use cases here for it. What about ZenPub? What is it?
Okay, so ZenPub, it's in the design phase right now, and in fact, we have we have a couple of different options to go with, and we're going to choose most likely a distributed file storage system, and that's what it is. It's like a decentralized version of Dropbox, where you don't have to worry about your files ever being compromised. And the cool thing about it is we have this huge node network now. We have 7,500 nodes on our network, which is massive, and we're approaching Bitcoin like node architecture, which I don't think most people realize. We're such a small project, but our node architecture is huge. So we figured, let's start doing useful stuff with it. And the first useful thing we could think of was, well, we have all of this storage capacity. We have people who are going out of their way to run a node. Well, one, we could use the storage capacity, create a valuable service, and find another way for node operators to earn income by storing data. So that's what ZenPub is. And it's really designed for, well, censorship resistance is a really big part of this project. We know that a lot of people live around the world in areas where they're denied basic human rights and freedom. So creating a system that's open and accessible to anyone and has a set of things that are important for that, like be able to communicate with each other, store data, even earning a living on a blockchain platform is interesting to me, and something that I keep always in the back of our minds of what are we trying to do? It's not just to create cool technology, but to create a system that doesn't have borders, and people who live in areas of the world where they don't have opportunity can participate and actually earn a living, feed their families. So we're trying to create more and more creative ways for people who participate to do that.
Cool. I like the sound of that. That's definitely a great aim. And of course, it's not just about being able to store your files, right? It's about being able to earn through having a node. It's about being able to access money that is not controlled by banks. And I think this is something that a lot of people in first world countries actually forget about from time to time, is that, oh yeah, I can just go to the bank and get $1,000. But in a lot of countries, you can go to the bank, stand in line for 24 hours and get $5. So having a decentralized payment network is really important for people. Now, about the nodes, you guys have a lot of nodes, but I think one of the things as well, you don't require like a gigantic investment, at least at this point, to run a node. Is it, if I remember, is it 40 Zencash to get a node?
42.
42 Zencash.
The answer to the universe. Yeah. Exactly.
The perfect number.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you nailed it. So the whole point here is to give access to people around the world. And what we didn't like from other systems with, say, master nodes that have huge staking requirements is we want a small barrier, but at the same time, just economically, you want people with some skin in the game. So you want some staking requirement, but at the same time, you don't want it to be onerous. So if Zen were to explode to say $1,000 tomorrow, I wouldn't feel comfortable personally with requiring $42,000 to operate a node. So most likely, at least I would be a really big advocate for dropping that requirement, commensurate. Now, that said, we could potentially have an upgrade to our system that requires more specialized nodes that have much more computational capability, or do other things, services on the network that not every node does. So if we were to create this type of super node system, we could actually require even more of a staking requirement. But there's always this balance where we don't want to restrict people artificially because of economics.
And I think that's what's happened with a lot of master nodes. I mean, you see with Dash, for example, sometimes, depending on the day, Dash master nodes have been over $1 million to have a Dash master node, which is an obscene amount of money for a master node. And I'm sure it's not what they designed when they set out building Dash. Now, anyone who wants to get a master node, and they are adding new master nodes. This is the fascinating thing. Even at $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, people are buying new master nodes, which is a fascinating thing. So money is not always a barrier, but it certainly changes the kind of people who are getting involved when buying your master nodes. It's no longer regular people. It's now banks, institutions, and millionaires. Let's talk about ZenHide. What is ZenHide? What's it used for?
Yeah, so ZenHide is our domain fronting application, which isn't designed right now. We have a few different technical solutions to get there. We'll probably start off with something where the whole premise is there's people that are, again, you'll notice a common theme is there's people living in parts of the world that don't have access to the global economy or even the global internet, which is crazy. So this is if you live in a part of the world where you don't want the fact that you accessed our system to be public or to be discovered, we're offering a solution where people can do that. Say if they're behind some firewall that doesn't allow access to a cryptocurrency network, it could make it look like they're accessing, Google or Amazon Web Services or some other, very benign commercial entity. So I think this is a really important part of this whole censorship resistant ecosystem.
Nice. That's really cool. Now, these are some interesting things that have been built on top of Zen already, but are you planning on implementing a smart contract language so that others can build on Zen too?
Yeah, so this is, okay, security is the #1 priority for Zen right now, right? So we chose to just adopt the basic scripting language for Bitcoin and Zcash initially because it's battle tested. We know that it is the most robust system currently available. And whenever you add more functions to your more functions to a scripting language, you increase the attack surface for your system. right? So we chose very intentionally not to go with a Turing-complete scripting language. That said, we know it's important to increase the functionality of the system. So my approach to this is actually, we just stood up a research and development division to the organization. And this is one of the projects that I'm looking to staff right now and organize within our team and some other really knowledgeable kind of PhD level researchers to look at. There's a range of scripting or smart contracting options out there right now. Should we just add functions to our current protocol? Should we sidechain, where we offload the entire scripting language to the sidechain? Should we leverage one of our other partners right now, like Cardano? What IOHK and Cardano? Should we leverage some other solution on the market? Should we build something completely from scratch? I don't know what the best answer is. Rootstock, is Bitcoin compatible? That's another option. So I want to approach this like a scientist and really look into the best approach. The way that I see it right now is my personal opinion, and this might be controversial, is that smart contracting is extremely interesting, but I don't think that I still think we're years off from massively popular use cases for it. I think that there are for sure use cases today, besides script kitties or Ethereum kitties or whatever, right? But I think the really big stuff, the promise of this technology is still a few years out from like the mass adoption. So I think we have some time, and I want to devote some serious R&D to figure out the best approach for us.
I know we're all looking forward to ZEN Kitties.
Yeah,
yoga poses and stuff would be great.
Yeah, totally. I love your Zen yoga video previously. That was that was great.
Be interesting to see how that moves forward, of course. So great. Now, what about ZK snarks? Obviously, this was the privacy feature the road that you've chosen to go down. There's a lot of other roads to get there with Tor, for example, or Monero's ring signatures. What do you think makes ZK snarks so robust?
Yeah, so I think that, well, number one, we should caveat this with, this is all one big experiment. So let's be honest about that. The technology is new, and commercializing the technology is even newer. So I'm extremely optimistic for it. Clearly, we chose to go down that route. I think it's a beautiful, elegant solution for true anonymity. But what I like about with Zcash, their implementation was they had selective privacy and selective transparency. So the user could choose what they wanted. And there's a whole bunch of use cases for where transparency actually matters. So I love Monero. I've been a supporter of that project for years now. And I still support it. But they have mandatory privacy, which one could say from a pure security perspective is the way to go. But from a use case perspective, it definitely bumps up against a use case limit. If you're going to mainstream technology, which I really hope that we're doing, there's plenty of reasons for why you need transparency. Like if you're a merchant and you have accounting books and you have shareholders, or you have some other people that you're accountable to, governments or whatever entity you want to say people are accountable to, you need to implement something with transparency. But I think it's also, from a humanitarian perspective, extremely important to give people the option for privacy. So we could talk philosophically. Should we have the first case be it's private and you can selectively choose to be transparent, or should it be reversed? I don't know. Right now, we offer both solutions.
Great. I think having tools is important for people. This is one thing I think about with some of the privacy coins. Is that if you're always on privacy, well, that's good, and it's kind of the equivalent of having cash and handing it to somebody because nobody knows it happened. But at the same time, like you said, there are situations when you want that to be recorded. Like, hey, I paid Bob $100 yesterday. I want someone to know that I paid him $100. Doesn't come back to me tomorrow and say, hey, where's my $100? You didn't pay me yesterday.
Yeah. So especially think about like our community fund. We're all about transparency. So which is weird. We're a privacy-oriented project, but we want everything that we do to be transparent, right? It's like what's that Latin phrase, like quies custodiet ipsos custodis, right? The whole who is watching the watchers. I really believe in that, and we have to be accountable to the whole community, to the whole world. So I want everything that we do to be auditable. So the transparency side is just, even from a pragmatic perspective, something that we need.
Absolutely. I appreciate the idea, without a doubt. Yeah, it's a privacy coin, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to be transparent. In fact, I think that's even more important. If you go back to look at censorship that's been happening, you look at the government. Look, we need to be secret, but not transparent, and that hasn't worked out very well in a lot of situations.
Exactly. It should be the opposite, right? Everything they do should be transparent, and we should have full privacy. But it's been like flipped around.
That's it, absolutely. Now, what is your approach to scaling? How many transactions per second is Zencash clocked in at, and is it going to be enough? And if it's not going to be enough, how are you going to make it enough?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question for us because we're so new, but because we built this secure node architecture where now all of a sudden we're tracking our nodes, and we track our nodes by asking them, we ping them and we ask them to respond on a transaction. We're getting now 7,500 nodes flooding our network with transactions, just proving that they're connected. So we may change that design at some point, but we're already starting to experience some scaling, and especially because Snark transactions require or an additional space on the chain. We have to work with this now. So we already have an R&D project with our R&D partner IOHK, where we're looking at a DAG implementation. This is a fancy term, directed acyclic graph. It's really just generalizing the blockchain protocol, where instead of having every block have a hash pointer back to the previous block, every block that our miner proposes has a reference to every known tip of, say, a tree architecture. So now you can do, instead of all of these miners around the world working on the same race where there's only one winner, now you can have, say, we would allow maybe a dozen blocks to be created in parallel every second. So that's actually the protocol that we're looking to upgrade. It's called Spectre. And there's another offshoot from Spectre called Phantom. We're looking at both of them right now, but they're both massive improvements to transaction throughput, where we could potentially do, say, like 2,000 transactions per second. It would be really cool to be able to do that in a way where these block DAG architectures actually preserve or increase the privacy that Satoshi brought with proof of work, because instead of all these miners working on blocks that we end up throwing away, all of the blocks that they're working on, or not all, but a lot more of the blocks actually become valid parts of the chain or the tree structure.
Very interesting. I like this. Now, I want to expand a bit on your relationship with IOHK. Obviously, Spectre sounds very interesting, but I know that Charles Hoskinson in particular, he's been a supporter of Zencash for a while. So I guess question, what's that relationship look like exactly? And will you be in the dataless wallet? Any plans for that?
So I've talked to him about that. We don't have a solid plan for it, but I can say just wait. If people can wait 2 to 2.5 months, we have some really cool surprise wallets that we're going to release to the community. We're already working sprints on massive upgrades to our wallets with the usability and just like consistent branding and usage in mind. Now with Charles, so Charles is just an awesome guy. He's brilliant. He has like solid values where he really believes in what we're doing. Not just us in the space, but obviously what we're doing as an industry. Promoting freedom and privacy and these kind of human rights around the world. So because our values were so consistently aligned, I call Charles a good friend just because of that. And I think that having people like him out there and bringing these people together is really important, of having like the good guys in the industry. So Charles, we invited him onto Zen early on to be a strategic advisor, which was an awesome decision. He's brilliant. He's been in this industry for so long now, and he's helped guide us towards a path that I think is really unique and innovative. And the relationship now we went from where Charles is still a strategic advisor, but now we have a contract with IOHK to do 3 important things, really important things actually. One is the Spectre research that I told you about, because Spectre is basically an academic paper that's 90 pages with 45 of those pages being math proofs. So we have a team of researchers now and scientists actually, number one, going through the proofs to see if they're all valid and consistent and the properties that we expect are real. And then we have, cryptographers and engineers who are prototyping this stuff. But the other major project with IOHK is our governance research. So governance is a serious problem in this industry. And the way I look at governance is twofold. One is how you allocate resources in a fair way that's transparent and open to the community. And two, how do you make, say, software upgrade decisions, right? Like how do you do a hard fork? Yeah. So we're tackling the first problem is easier. It's still we have a very unique solution that we're getting from IOHK. So that they've already prototyped it and it's already in testing, which is way ahead of schedule, which is really good news for the community. But basically it's a game theoretic voting system for how you can make as fair of an election as possible, where the election process itself doesn't influence the results of the election. Like if you look at, say, the US voting system, I would argue that politics is pretty messed up. And it's not just the US. I think politics is messed up all over the world. And I think it's because we're using voting systems, mechanism designs that we would never use if we could start from scratch. So what we're doing is we're actually implementing an intelligent voting mechanism that you would use if you could start from scratch, because we are. Where we're leveraging ZK snarks for secret balloting. So we have a voting epic where all users who have a stake in the system can vote on a whole set of standardized proposals or proposals, and the votes themselves don't influence the results because they're secret. You can't see. So like if we had a whole set of proposals, say 20 of them, and you saw that only 2 were winning, most voters would probably just focus on those 2 and discard the others, because we have this voter apathy or this voter thing where that's why people always tell me they're libertarian, but they never vote libertarian, because they say, well, libertarians will never win. Well, here we can kind of allow the best proposals to actually go forward because people aren't influenced by this through the secret balloting. But we also pay people to vote, which is another key thing.
Oh, interesting.
Tackling voter apathy. And, my big motto of I want to provide more people around the world with an opportunity to earn income. Well, now you can actually participate in our system by curating proposals and voting on them, or taking such a leadership role in the community where people trust you and they delegate their voting stake to you, and then both of you make money. You basically split the voting reward. So that's a really cool way to make sure that people actually use their stake for something and they're not just sitting on it.
Wow.
So those are the two big projects. And we have a third, which is integrating into Open Bazaar, which is an awesome thing. I love it because I'm a huge fan of Open Bazaar and this peer-to-peer economic, version of eBay. But so it's just IOHK was just doing the specs for it. Now we have another engineering team implementing it.
Wow, really exciting stuff. So much there. I want to unpack a little bit of it, but the governance thing is fantastic. And I think that's got massive application. Obviously, all your statements about the voting are correct. People always vote on a 2-horse race kind of thing. They don't see if there's any other horses out there at all. So that's great. I like that you're paying people to vote. So I think if we actually did that in real elections, we would have some probably very different results. Like, hey, $20 to everybody who comes and votes today. I'm going to go get $20. I want free money. This is great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, next question here for you. Tell me, how is your community development going? How are you reaching out? What are the ways that you're trying to make this, I guess, a more user-friendly process for people and engage people?
Okay, so I think that this industry, I've participated in this industry, for a long time now. And one thing that I don't like is I don't like negativity, to be frank. I'm a fairly positive person, and this is just my preference, is I want to see a positive, supportive environment. So you'll see our community, if you come and participate, say, in our Discord, our forum, our Reddit, our Telegram, you'll see we're just really nice people. And we kind of have this really supportive ecosystem, which has resonated. So early on, when we just didn't have very many resources, we had people joining the project and participating because they just really liked the positive message that we had. So the way I see it now is I want to be like the Zappos of the crypto world, where Zappos, if you've ever bought shoes from them and ever dealt with their customer support, the culture that they have is one of extreme respect for their customers. So I view all of our users as customers, and they all deserve respect. So for instance, that's why we set up a dedicated customer support system now, the first in the industry, which is crazy to think of a currency having customer support. Like, could you imagine if you could contact the central bank of your country directly and tell them you're pissed off at their monetary policy, right? So it's just crazy to think, but this is the future, right? We have to use best practices to make the world better. That's what we're doing here. We want to make society better, and why not? Like, if we have the technology, the capability, the lessons. So that's the focal point for our community, and we have a very vibrant, like, diehard supportive community, which I love. And whenever I travel to any conferences or we go to different regions, we always invite out the community, and it's been so cool meeting people in person. I love it. I have to say, our community is our biggest resource. So we always want to make sure that what we're doing is supportive of the community.
Very cool. I like it. Now, there's obviously a lot of privacy-centered projects in the space, and we could just go down the list of all the different ones out there, from Monero and Zcash and PivX and on and on and on down the list. With all of these privacy players out there, what's your strategy to getting Zencash to be one of those top privacy players? How do you, get the message across to people?
Yeah, so customer support and community are huge, and I think completely underrated in this industry. So that's a focal point, and that's why I was really proud, to announce last week we just launched this customer support unit. We're going to be expanding that significantly and bringing on some serious experts to help out. And then I'd like to actually pioneer a distributed customer support model where we can actually have, like, Uberized customer support to create, again, another decentralized income earning opportunity of you become an active participant in the community and you help people, you build a strong rating by helping people, you actually get rewarded more for it economically. So things like that, or just the foundation. Our technology is strong. We're using what we think are best-in-class technologies. We have a 50-person team right now, which is insane compared to a lot of other projects that have a few guys who could code a little bit. We actually have 7 divisions that are run professionally, where we have a great engineering team. About half of the personnel are engineers across various domains of expertise. But then we also have solid business development, marketing, PR, operations, an R&D division. Right, so a finance division, finance and accounting, to make sure that we're actually, say, managing our reserves professionally. So if the market tanks, we can still pay our team, for instance, by hedging. Things like this, that if you're a project that just has a few guys and you fork a GitHub repo, cool. Maybe you have a nice website and a nice white paper and you have a good vision, but you have to have an integrated, multidisciplinary team. So I think our team is something I'm really proud of. Our culture, our team, our technology, I think across all fronts, we're doing really well.
Very cool. Yeah. This is I kind of don't like to ask people about who you see as the competition, so I want to turn around and flip it on its head. What other project in the space do you most admire?
I love that. That's great. Okay, so I really admire Zuko and his team at Zcash. Part of this whole thing is we forked their libsnark, and that was huge. What he did and what they did in commercializing zero knowledge cryptography into this industry is, I think, Nobel Prize worthy. So I love and respect their team. I hope that we can provide value in return. Honestly, like, I would love for the day when some innovation that we're building is adopted by, it's already being adopted by other participants, but we want to give back, especially to the people that we've borrowed technology from. Other players in the space. So there's projects that I really admire the people on them, and that's kind of how I evaluate projects. Obviously, I really admire Charles and IOHK. So what they're doing with Cardano, I love what they're doing. I think they're innovative. They're academically rigorous with their approach to things, which is something this industry needs a lot more of. I really like Ethereum Classic for the kind of the same founding principles of a value-driven project and staying consistent to your values. I respect the Ethereum team. I think that they have brilliant people on the project. What they're doing is both innovative, but also they're innovating on almost an academic level, but also at the commercial level, which is really cool to see. And then there's a variety of other projects out there that I really like and respect. But basically, if you can find a project where people are not just trying to make money, but also provide some social good, I'm a huge supporter. So there's a project called Nori that a friend of mine, Paul, I met him in Tahiti with another team member of ours named Ross, where they're trying to do carbon sequestration with a blockchain-based incentive model to do the carbon sequestration. So things like this, where you're using the technology and the economic incentives to, in some way, make the world better, whether that's environmentally, there's people doing it to give people economic opportunity, universal IDs, whatever. I love that. And that's where we need to go, because this industry gets such a bad rap from people who know nothing about it. Like Bill Gates the other day said that,
this guy.
what he was saying was insane. That him and his buddies, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, these guys say that we're scams, where we actively kill people. That's what Gates said, which was insulting. Charlie Munger. Yeah, and then Charlie Munger says the government should stamp us out like we're animals. I mean, it's insulting, because we have tens of thousands of really good people around the world who are super smart, people with PhDs, academics, other people who are just great engineers, people who are know marketing really well. And we're all coming together and trying to do something positive. Not all of us, but there's a lot of us coming together to do something positive. So, I personally support all this stuff, and I wish that more people did. But that's why we have to focus on the social goods aspects to prove that we're not just all trying to create drug markets. Like I'm not trying to make life easier for a Mexican cartel, right? That's not what we're about at all. So.
Oh, these guys. It's just again, we're back to the horses and the cars, and they're all, our horses are the best ever, and your cars are going to kill people. Well, I guess cars did kill people, but horses killed a lot of people too, and that's,
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wish to give us a little more respect, though, for what we're doing.
You won't get it until you pry it out of their cold, dead hands, I think. Anyway, final question here for you today.
Yeah.
What can we look forward for 2018 for Zencash? What do we have coming up? What are the milestones that we as a community should be watching out for?
That's a really good question. So we have a few things. We have something called Operation Radical Transparency, where we're trying to become the most transparent, open blockchain organization in the world, where all of our accounting we want to make public facing. So we're building software to make sure that everything that we're spending money on is easily auditable to people, like anyone in the world. So that's really cool. We have something called Radical Usability, where now you're going to see in the next 2 to 3 months some really awesome projects or products hitting the market. And part of that is we're refactoring and redesigning our flagship wallet, but at the same time we also have another self wallet project which is designed for new users to cryptocurrency. It isn't even Zen focused. We're going to have other cryptocurrencies on there. We just want to promote this ecosystem to people who know nothing about it and who don't have to know what a private key is to use it, right? So this is the kind of product that we need a lot more of. On the R&D side, we have some really heavy hitting projects with the scalability, DAG research, the governance research. So expect all of that stuff. Probably mid-year for the governance stuff, end of the year for the DAG research.
Awesome. Exciting times ahead for Zencash. Rob, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with us today and go through this. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's been very, very useful for everyone out there watching. So thank you so much for your time.
No, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I know our community loves you, so it was really cool to come on here.
Cool. Thank you.